The more virgin our eyes are, the more we have to say.
Now, what Orson Welles just mentioned isn't the only issue. The second one is arguably larger. People don't have lives anymore. Now, I'm not here to discuss how I know you probably scroll from 10 to 11 with no breaks or watch a movie every day on Letterboxd and dream about making a film that has quirky references and look at that, another brick in the wall. I'm instead going to try and help you fix this. Humor me for a moment. Let's just say that you don't have much originality in you. You may point to Tarantino, look at the references in his films, and how he's just like me. And no, if you actually read between the lines, you can see that all of that is icing on the cake and not the meat. And this isn't to say that sort of stuff is bad, but if watching movies and scrolling reels is a majority of what your brain intakes, its output might not even be bad, but it will be unoriginal. You will not stand out. People can look at your film and point out every filmmaker you've paid homage to, but there will be no one paying homage to your work. And ironically, you're only a little better than AI. Here's the kicker. Everyone consumes, and everyone outputs, so consume better and live life. Now, if you're nothing like me, you've wasted a lot of time learning about the lives of filmmakers, and then you'll know that in their childhood they pretty much strictly watched movies. But you'd be a fool to claim that they didn't live as they got older. And I'm not even going to focus on what directors did in their lives, but instead, what you can do. Your friends might invite you bowling. For a split second, you see something. There's a feeling that strikes you. And that's just a night out bowling that you wouldn't have gotten if you told your friends you're not going out with them. And you saw this one thing, you at least didn't. And when you saw it, it struck a chord with you in such a particular way that the small thing begins to help inform your style. And this in particular is something that I struggle with. I'm so focused on getting the actual film done that I've considered not going to events that have sharpened and honed my experiences that I can use for writing, and that I wouldn't have gotten because I was doing something that was, yes, valuable, less valuable than an experience, a story that only you can draw from for your story because it happened in a way not like any other story, perceived by someone totally unique, you. Werner Herzog walked from Munich to Paris, and that's one of the least things he could draw from his life for his films. Chances are, that alone would be more influential in your writing than half the things you've done. So take up any opportunity to live that you can. But also keep in mind, you can't use that as an excuse to not work either. There's a balance. But right now, most people is probably very imbalanced, with an emphasis on not living. Popular? Yes. Hard? Yes. Useful? Yes. I understand this might not be for everybody, but the fact is, you will be lesser without it and more with it. It's not just cool historical stories I'm talking about either, though historical knowledge is by far the most useful. Any field of study can greatly affect stories. Think Frank Herbert in ecology, Robert Eggers in cultural studies, Damien Chazelle in music, and so on. Geography has been an incredibly influential factor in my films, and that's not something people would typically search out to find in order to be a better filmmaker. But it works. Now some might point out, how is this any different from drawing from movies? The real difference is, one is a reflection of a reflection, and the other is a simple reflection, or insertion with regards to more mathematical subjects. While reflecting on films can work out, it's often a lot harder. It's better to be humble now and do that when you're older. That is something which truly comes with time. While rather with academics in your film, it is not something that you gain with age and experience. With wider knowledge, you can write better and better nuances and deeper insight into the world. With more knowledge, there is more in you that is interesting, and more in you that you can put into your film to make it not only interesting, but if properly done, profound. I can point to every single book on my shelf and list something it's given me that has made me a better writer, and I don't often deliberately draw from them as I write. It is a very casual thing. Big picture is to at least always be actively learning. It doesn't matter what, you're surprised what your brain can pull from, but most of that is memorization. It's great, but intelligence is as well. And you can build your intelligence. You can improve yourself, even if it is harder for you. But the fact that you got there will make it all the more impressive. The more intelligent you become, the more clever your scripts can be, the easier you'll be able to visualize what you want. Adding setups and payoffs will be a breeze, and just like chess, you'll be able to think steps ahead of your audience. If I had to list some examples of directors and writers whose intelligence especially flows into their films or books, there's obviously Christopher Nolan, Frank Herbert, Quentin Tarantino, J.R.R. Tolkien, David Fincher, and Aaron Sorkin. All of them clearly have that, and it helps them. So if you want to make the best scripts you can, it's vital to keep your mind in shape, building it in memory, intelligence, knowledge, and creativity. I try to keep my mind in shape by playing chess, solving all sorts of puzzles, eating healthy, doing almost anything on the human benchmark. I try to be more knowledgeable by reading and learning. I try to be more creative by creating constantly. That doesn't even mean writing for hours a day, maybe even just doing a sketch. Small, yes, but the point is to always engage your mind. While filmmaking can take a physical toll on you, it is primarily of the mind. Keep it in shape, always be learning, always make sure it can keep problem solving, and yes, read books. It can be hard, I understand, but it will build you. Even just reading classics is arguably better for you than just inundating yourselves with films, because they're so old and baked into our culture that you won't exactly be seen as unoriginal or come off as pretentious, which really can ruin a film for some people. And I mean, they're just really good. It's like, you guys are missing out. And most of this doesn't take a lot of time. Spend one of your 24 hours reading, 30 minutes doing a puzzle of some kind, 20 minutes of doing a quick sketch. Just don't stop. That Orson Welles quote isn't why I made the video, but it is a big point. I don't entirely agree with him. Tarantino is my favorite filmmaker, and his films are chock full of homages. But to consume carefully, that is important. It is generally not good to watch films daily, but I wouldn't exactly say that's universal. But if you do consume carefully, not looking out for danger, but carefully. A method from Martin Scorsese which I commonly employ is the first time you watch something, feel it. The second time, you understand it. Learn its strengths and weaknesses and how you can avoid them in your work or do something similar within technicality, but completely your own in the end. And I do just have to clarify, don't try and analyze it on your first watch, it can taint the experience. But on the second watch, do that. Why did something impact you so much? What is it in Asteroid City that brings such a bittersweet feeling? How does Oppenheimer keep you hooked for 3 hours? Why does Dune Part 2's ending work so well? And all of these are questions that I've had and later analyzed and applied to my own work too. And these aren't homages, they're learning an element like the incredible amount of setups you wouldn't notice being set up until you saw their payoff in Dune. It's more like taking a part from a car and using it in your own custom car rather than just copying an entire car. This doesn't just go for writing either. You can look at a shot in Prisoners and learn something without straight up copying it. This can be applied to pretty much every bit of work in film, so do it. This isn't a choice. You will notice things. You will learn things. I felt how tense No Country for Old Men was, and on the second watch I learned how they were able to do that with zero music in the entire film. With that, I learned I can apply that to a single scene in a very subtle way. And this doesn't just apply to movies either. One of my favorite things about Red Dead Redemption is the character NPCs, and I wondered why. Second playthrough, I watched them more, and I realized it's because they either have an entire character arc, or just change throughout the story, which I then learned, or rather am learning, to apply to my own characters, having them grow in satisfying or tragic ways that are blatant and in your face, but still subconsciously effective, perhaps even something someone may realize in their own rewatch. Now, with all of this, go out, experience, make yourself a unique human being, learn, and live. Tell stories that are so recognizably you that you become the person that people draw from for their film that is basically a best-of compilation. Tell personal stories, tell good stories.